King. Let us hear from the controller of the city of New York, William C. Thompson, Jr.
Thank you, Reverend Sharpton, Dr. Richardson, to members of the National Action Network. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. It is always a pleasure to be back in the House of Justice, and I'm going to surprise you this evening. I know that everyone who has come up this evening has indicated that they would be brief. I'm going to try to be brief. But first, let me say what a pleasure it is to be here on Dr. King's birthday. You know, we have always gathered on the holiday rather than the birthday. Now, this year is a little different. I know that you've heard many people explain, but we'll be gathering on the holiday also. Because next week, Tuesday particularly, is a very special day. Now, I haven't had this much excitement about a day in a long time. And I know that that excitement, while it is in this room, it is across this city, it is around this country, it's around the world right now. People are excited about the inauguration of Barack Obama. Now, a couple of things. And first, this is, you know, if we talk about Dr. King's dream, that clearly would have to be part of it. I'm not even sure that he saw in his dream the inauguration of an African-American president. And as I pointed out to some friends just a little while ago this evening, it isn't just an African-American. Because the truth is, you know, we have an African-American on the Supreme Court. So it isn't just, it's the right person. He's the right person. He's African-American, but he understands. That was Dr. King's dream, that a person of content, a person of character, would be the person that would be there. That's what makes it all so special. That we will be inaugurating somebody who understands the challenges that face us, that face everyday Americans, that face those who struggle to get from day to day to day. That's what makes it so special. The one thing that we need to do, and there are too many people who view next Tuesday, though, as the end. As we have worked to get to a point that now we've achieved it. All of you here, those who are members of the National Action Network, those who are used to the struggle, understand that next Tuesday is only the beginning. Next Tuesday, things begin. Next Tuesday, hope is renewed. Next Tuesday may be a victory, and it is a substantial one, but it's the beginning of moving forward. You know, during the last 18 months, and Reverend Sharpton mentioned my father. Now, my dad's 84 years old. He's a former state senator, first African-American state senator in Brooklyn's history. Wow. Member of the New York City Council, former judge. He's retired now, and I would say he's retired, but that's only because he was at mandatory retirement age as a judge. He still is working 5 days a week as an attorney. And one of the things that Reverend Sharpton didn't mention is he used to, when Reverend Sharpton and others have been arrested back in the 60s, my dad was one, or in the early 70s, was one who came and bailed everybody out. Bailed the ministers out, bailed the young Reverend Sharpton out. As they stood up, he was the head, the regional head of the NAACP. But in the last 18 months, and particularly as we watched, and he and I talk often, he lives in Brooklyn. We've talked about, you know, not just the election as it proceeded, as it moved along, but about where things have been. And to appreciate Dr. King, and it's one of the things I always say when I talk to our young people, so because they need to understand where things were, to understand where we are at now, and how much of an accomplishment is that this election has been. How much all the work that so many of you have done over the years have helped us to get to this time. He talked about visiting going to the NAACP convention in the mid-1950s in Atlanta, and how he and a few other friends who were members of the NAACP got in their car, started to drive to Atlanta. And they drove, and they drove, and they drove. And it wasn't that they didn't get tired along the way. It wasn't as if they didn't want to stop at a motel or a hotel and rent a room. It was that they understood there were no rooms for them along the way. That no matter where they would have stopped, they would have been told, no matter what the sign said, that there was no vacancy because of the color of their skin. That's the time that Dr. King came up in. A time where, when he was in the army in World War II, it was a segregated army, where they had colored units or divisions, where when he came back from Europe after being wounded over in Italy, came back through our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and went to get something to eat at one of the mess halls. He was told, there's the colored-only mess hall down the way. And where the white soldiers ate was the same place that they fed the German prisoners of war. And those black soldiers who had just fought for their country, some who had been wounded, a number who had died, couldn't eat in the main dining hall. That was the country that Dr. King helped to move things forward. But as my dad liked to point out, that, you know something, at that point, he was in a segregated army that now, the head of the armed services, the commander-in-chief, is a black man. So no, things have changed dramatically. However, things were tough then, and that's what Dr. King had to deal with. We have to make sure our young people understand where their history was and the history of struggle that they came out of. And while next Tuesday is a great day, and a day I have to admit I never thought I would see in my lifetime. Never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. My father knew he never would. And unbelievably, my 29-year-old daughter said she never thought she'd see that day either. But things begin next Tuesday. And as we look forward, no, now it is a question of economic justice. Now it's a question of educational justice. Now it's a question of continuing to move forward and understanding that next Tuesday is the beginning. So no, to understand and fully realize Dr. King's dream, we need to have a country where everybody has the same opportunity, regardless of who they are. African American, white, Latino, rich, poor. Everybody needs to have the same opportunity. That's what this is. That's what this day helps us look forward to. That's what next Tuesday is the beginning of. Of a new day, of a day of additional hope that we have never seen, but the beginning of a new day where we really look to fully realize Dr. King's dream. Again, it's a pleasure to be back. To everybody, thank you all for what you have done to help make next Tuesday a reality, because it didn't happen by itself. It didn't happen without those who stood out there and fought for justice over the years. It wasn't without those who stood up and said,